Jack Ma pulled out his phone and showed me a photo from 1999. This is my apartment where 18 people started Alibaba. We had no money, no office, and no idea what we were doing. He laughed. But we had something more valuable than money. We had a dream to help small businesses compete with big corporations. Today, that dream processes $1 trillion in transactions annually. Tonight, I'm having dinner with Jack Ma, the founder of Alibaba and one of China's most iconic entrepreneurs. We're in a quiet restaurant in Hangzhou, the city where it all began. He's about to share the incredible story of how an English teacher with no technical background built one of the world's most valuable companies from his tiny apartment. "Tell me about that apartment," I said, studying the photo on his phone. Jack Ma's eyes sparkled with nostalgia. "It was a 2-bedroom apartment in Hangzhou. My wife Kathy and I lived there with our infant son. When I decided to start Alibaba, I gathered 17 friends and former colleagues in our living room." "What did you tell them?" "I said, we're going to build something that will help small Chinese businesses sell to the world. We don't know how, but we're going to figure it out together." Half of them thought I was crazy. The other half thought I was very crazy. He chuckled, taking a sip of tea. But they believed in the vision, even if they didn't understand the technology. Because none of us understood the technology. "Wait, you started an internet company without understanding technology." "Exactly." I couldn't code. I barely knew how to use email. When I first saw the internet in 1995 during a trip to Seattle, I thought it was magic. But I understood something more important than technology. I understood people. "What did you understand about people?" In 1999, small business owners in China were struggling. They made good products, but had no way to reach customers beyond their local markets. Meanwhile, buyers around the world wanted Chinese products, but had no way to find reliable suppliers. I saw a massive disconnect. But how do you solve that without technical skills? Ma leaned forward, his voice becoming more animated. "You focus on the problem, not the solution. We didn't build Alibaba.com because we loved technology. We built it because we loved small businesses and wanted to give them superpowers." What happened in those early days? Chaos, honestly. We worked 16-hour days, 7 days a week. We slept on the floor of the apartment office. Kathy was taking care of our baby while also helping with the company. It was beautiful madness. How did you fund it? We pooled our savings. I had about $20,000 from my previous business ventures. The 18 founders contributed what they could. Total initial capital was about $60,000. Not exactly venture capital, he laughed. What was the business model? We charged small membership fees for businesses to list their products on our platform. $240 per year for a basic membership. It sounds tiny, but when you have thousands of small businesses paying, it adds up. But those early days must have been incredibly difficult. Ma's expression became more serious. The hardest part wasn't the long hours or the financial pressure. It was the doubt. Every day people told us we were wasting our time. Chinese businesses don't understand the internet. Foreign buyers don't trust Chinese suppliers. E-commerce will never work in China. What kept you going? Our users. I remember the first time a small factory owner from Guangzhou told me he had received an order from Germany through Alibaba. He was crying with joy. That's when I knew we were onto something special. The waiter brought our main course. Ma had ordered simple dumplings, staying true to his humble roots. When did you realize Alibaba would become massive? 2003 was the turning point. We launched Taobao to compete with eBay China. Everyone said we were insane. eBay was the global leader. They had more money, better technology, international experience. How did you compete with eBay? We didn't compete with eBay's strengths. We competed where they were weak. eBay charged listing fees and transaction fees. We made Taobao completely free. eBay prohibited direct communication between buyers and sellers. We built instant messaging into our platform. Why did those differences matter? Because we understood Chinese culture. In China, business is personal. People want to chat, negotiate, build relationships before buying. eBay's model was too cold, too Western. What was your strategy? We called it free for 3 years. No listing fees, no transaction fees, nothing. People thought we were crazy. How do you make money if everything is free? How did you make money? We didn't for 3 years. We burned through cash and raised money from investors who believed in the long-term vision, but we gained market share rapidly. By 2006, we had 80% of China's C2C market. Then what? Then we introduced value-added services, payment solutions, advertising, logistics support. Once we had the traffic and trust, monetization became easier. Tell me about Alipay. That was revolutionary. Ma's eyes lit up. Alipay solved the biggest problem in Chinese e-commerce: trust. Buyers didn't trust sellers. Sellers didn't trust buyers. Nobody trusted online payments. How did Alipay solve that? Escrow service. Buyers pay Alipay. We hold the money until they receive the goods and confirm satisfaction. Then we release payment to the seller. Simple concept, but it changed everything. But didn't that create regulatory issues? Oh yes, we launched Alipay without a payment license because the regulations didn't exist yet. We were building the airplane while flying it. The government wasn't sure how to regulate us because we were doing something completely new. How did you handle regulatory uncertainty? Transparency and patience. We worked closely with regulators, shared our data, explained our vision. We wanted to help them understand that we were creating something beneficial for China's economy. What about the international expansion? Alibaba became global. That was always the dream, but we learned that global doesn't mean one size fits all. What works in China doesn't necessarily work in Southeast Asia or India or America. What were the challenges? Cultural differences, regulatory differences, competitive landscapes. In some markets, we had to completely rebuild our approach. In others, we partnered with local companies who understood their markets better than we did. Let's talk about your leadership style. How do you manage a company with hundreds of thousands of employees? Culture first, strategy second. We spent enormous energy building Alibaba's culture, our values, our mission, our way of treating customers and each other. If the culture is strong, the strategy can evolve. What are Alibaba's core values? Customer first, employee second, shareholder third. This order is crucial. If customers are happy, employees will be proud. If employees are proud, shareholders will be rewarded. That seems counterintuitive to Western business thinking. Maybe, but it works. When everyone in the company genuinely cares about customer satisfaction, amazing things happen. Employees go above and beyond. Innovation accelerates. Trust builds. What about your management philosophy? Hire people smarter than you, then get out of their way. My job isn't to have all the answers. My job is to ask the right questions and create an environment where smart people can find answers. You stepped down as CEO relatively young. Why? Because leadership transition should happen when the company is strong, not when it's struggling. I wanted to build something that could thrive without me. That's the mark of a successful founder. But you remained involved as executive chairman. Yes, focusing on vision, culture, and strategic direction. The day-to-day operations went to people who were better at that than me. I'm a startup guy, not a big corporation guy. What about your recent challenges with regulators? That must have been difficult. Ma paused, choosing his words carefully. When you build something that affects hundreds of millions of people, you have responsibilities beyond just business success. Sometimes you have to make decisions that aren't popular, but are right for the long term. What did you learn from that experience? That business leaders, especially in China, need to balance entrepreneurial ambition with social responsibility. We're not just building companies, we're helping build society. How do you view the relationship between business and government? It's complex. Government provides the framework for business to operate. Business provides the innovation and efficiency that drives economic growth. The relationship should be collaborative, not adversarial. What's your advice for entrepreneurs facing regulatory challenges? Engage early. Engage honestly. Don't wait for problems to arise. Build relationships with regulators based on transparency and mutual respect. Remember, their job is to protect society, not to hurt business. Let's talk about failure. You've mentioned being rejected many times. Failure is the best teacher. I was rejected by KFC, rejected by the police academy, rejected by Harvard Business School twice. Each rejection taught me something about persistence and self-improvement. How do you handle rejection? I reframe it. Rejection means you're trying something difficult. If everyone says yes to you, you're probably not being ambitious enough. The best opportunities are the ones where most people say no. What about your English teaching background? How did that help with business? Teaching taught me how to communicate complex ideas simply, how to inspire people, how to be patient with different learning styles, all crucial skills for entrepreneurship. Do you miss teaching? I never stopped teaching. Running Alibaba was teaching at scale, teaching thousands of employees, teaching millions of small businesses how to use technology, teaching the market about new possibilities. What's your current focus? Education and philanthropy. The Jack Ma Foundation focuses on education reform, especially in rural areas. We're trying to give children the same opportunities that education gave me. Why education? Because education is the great equalizer. It doesn't matter if you're born poor or rich in a big city or small village. If you have access to quality education, you can change your destiny. What's your vision for China's future? I want China to be known not just for manufacturing, but for innovation, not just for copying, but for creating. We have 1.4 billion people and 5,000 years of culture. We should be leading the world in solving global problems. What advice do you give to young entrepreneurs? First, solve real problems. Don't start a company just to make money. Start a company to make a difference. Second, focus on customers, not competitors. If you're always looking at what others are doing, you'll never innovate. What else? Third, embrace failure. Every failure is tuition for your next success. Fourth, build a strong team. Success is never a solo journey. Fifth, be patient. Building something meaningful takes time. Any specific advice for entrepreneurs in developing markets? Use your local advantages. Don't try to copy Silicon Valley exactly. Understand your local customers, your local culture, your local problems. Then build solutions that work for your context. What's your biggest regret? Not starting earlier. I was 35 when I founded Alibaba. If I had started at 25, imagine what we could have built. But then again, maybe I needed those 10 years of experience to be ready. What's your proudest achievement? The small businesses. We've helped millions of small companies reach global markets. We've created jobs, supported families, lifted people out of poverty. That's more important than market cap or revenue numbers. Final question. What would you tell someone who feels too old or too inexperienced to start something big? Ma smiled warmly. Age and experience are just numbers. What matters is your passion, your persistence, and your willingness to learn. I was an English teacher with no technical background. If I can build Alibaba, anyone can build anything. As dinner concluded, Ma reflected on the journey from that crowded apartment to global success. The most important lesson from that apartment in 1999 is this: you don't need perfect conditions to start something amazing. You just need a dream, a team that believes in you, and the courage to begin. Everything else you can figure out along the way. This evening with Jack, Ma reminded me that the greatest companies often start with the simplest ingredients: a problem worth solving, people willing to work together, and the audacity to believe that small beginnings can lead to extraordinary outcomes. Don't forget to subscribe and check out the other videos to hear the most private dinner conversations where billionaires reveal their deepest secrets. Which part inspired you the most? Drop it in the comments. Let's figure out how to become billionaires together.